to This Week in Auburn Sports. I'm sports editor Will Gaines. That's assistant sports editor Justin Ferguson. I think there was a pretty good football game last week.
I remember there something happening Saturday night. It's just a blur.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to try to, not really,
Probably one of the biggest moments in Auburn history that happened last week. Yeah,
that's incredible.
It was. So, kind of what were some of your thoughts from the Alabama game? It was a close game. Auburn pulled it out, and they're headed to Atlanta. So what were some things you saw from the game?
Well, I personally was really impressed, like a lot of other people, about how well Auburn ran the football against Alabama. Yep. We heard it all week that Alabama was not going to allow Auburn to run like they have been, and Auburn has the most rushing yards against a Nick Saban coached team in the Alabama, since he's been in Alabama. And it's just incredible to see how dominating that line can be and how fast Malzahn's offense can go when it's ticking. And Alabama had a hard time combating that, which is really interesting because they are one of the most dominating defenses in recent college football history. Other than that, Auburn bouncing back from a 21-7 hole and scoring touchdowns on either side of halftime to make it a brand new ball game and setting up a finish that you can't really describe it.
It was incredible. Trey Mason, you talk about the run game. He impresses me so much with how hard he runs. I mean, it's just, you keep thinking he's going to, he's been so consistent. This goes back to last year.
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn as a team had a terrible year last year, but Trey Mason had a good year.
Fantastic.
He hasn't had a bad game, I don't think, since he's been starting. And, he's just continuing. They're going to have that this week when they go to Atlanta to play Missouri.
The thing that I really took away from it, and I know it's kind of surprising to say, is I think we talked about it earlier this week, is how much I think that loss for Alabama goes down to Nick Saban.
Oh, yeah.
The decision-making in the fourth quarter. You talk about Malzahn making the package triple option call to tie the game with Sammy Coates, and then having the foresight to stick Chris Davis back in the end zone to return the missed field goal. But Alabama had some just strange decisions, and they didn't work out. And you gotta wonder, could Alabama had a better chance of scoring if they would let A.J. McCarron throw the ball instead of going for the long field goal? Why did they go for it on fourth down in that fourth quarter situation late when the field goal could have ended the game? But Malzahn's play calling and decision making extremely successful, and I think that's why you're talking about Auburn going to the SEC title game and getting a raise after his first year. This tournament has been unheard of.
It really hasn't. It's been the same thing that we've said all year. This team, they face some adversity. They just keep fighting. It's so impressive to see them do that. They just keep plugging away every week.
There's so many similarities between this team and the 2010 team.
It's
just unbelievable. And I don't think they have as much as individual talent. They don't have a Cam Newton. They don't have a Nick Fairley.
Yeah.
But they have that core of leaders, and it's just with Malzahn's offense and a defense that can make some big stops. Anything's possible with this team.
I think we're starting to see maybe that 2010 season. Cam Newton is a phenomenal player. But maybe Gus Malzahn had a little bit more.
He didn't get as much credit.
I don't think he did either. So Auburn finishes the season with one loss. They're heading to the SEC championship. As we look back now that the regular season is over, kind of what were some things you saw from this team from beginning and end? Kind of the path that they've taken to get where they are now. What were some things, some high points of this season?
I think we've touched on it, is overcoming adversity.
Yep.
A lot of people want to talk about, if Auburn had another shot at LSU, if the onside kick in that third quarter would have been called back. If Auburn would have been able to get that, it could have been a different season. Auburn could be in pole position to get to the national championship game. They still have a really good shot at it. However, I think that loss helped inspire this team to push through the season. You have just they don't give up. And that was as don't give up was the story of this year. Give up was the story of last year. Watching Auburn after their slow start to the season, and I think when I look back at this season, I'm going to talk about that rainy game against LSU. That team got kicked in the mouth early, and they came back.
I remember that game. It was so weird because Auburn got the ball to start the game, and it was so weird because they were hitting on all cylinders, and then Jalen Denson went down with a knee injury. And things just changed. Yep. And it was the second quarter before they could get rolling again. That was a very unusual game. And, maybe if the weather was different, who knows what might have happened.
You can talk about that, and then you can say, well, maybe You know, if Ricardo Lewis doesn't look up at the last second against Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so many different things.
Oh, yeah.
And Auburn's been on the positive side of so many of those, so I don't think you can go back and play
yeah.
that much. But it's still an incredible season.
Oh yeah, it's been incredible. So we got our paper coming out this week. You're definitely going to want to pick this up because we have an 8-page sports section, and we've got some great stuff in there. We've got kind of a look at Trey Mason. We talked about him earlier. You know, does he deserve a trip to
New York City,
New York City for the Heisman? Me personally, I think that if the Alabama game had happened a couple, maybe around the Texas A&M game, he starts getting a little bit more praise. I think his shining moment was maybe a little too late. I know that sounds weird, but it was maybe a little too late to get him in the running. But you know, do I think he's maybe the Heisman winner? Not yet, but I think he deserves a chance to go to New York.
And so much we have in this section. It's a special game day / sports section. It's 8 pages. You're going to want to check out the cover. Just this issue is one of the best looking I've ever seen.
We had a lot of fun putting it together.
It's a great, way to finish the semester. And so we have in-depth previews on Missouri and Auburn for the SEC title game, which will be in Atlanta this week, and we are heading to the Dome on Saturday.
We will be there.